Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. I'm John Murphy, and this is Fearless. And the whole idea of Fearless is to share ideas and strategies and tips with you on how to just get past that barrier, that real barrier to success, to just take your foot off the brake, so to speak. There's no sense in going through life with the brakes on. And so today we have an awesome guest, Jon Giganti, also a fuel instructor. He's got a course called the $20,000 Keynote with Todd Duncan, the co-founder of Fuel. So I encourage you to check that out. All of these episodes are recorded and then reposted on YouTube. So if you've missed an episode or you want to go back and see an episode over, I certainly encourage you to do that and then share. Please, we want to reach as many people as we can with these ideas and helpful tips. So please do that. And check out Fuel and all of the great instructors and courses there. I have 3 courses with Fuel, creative problem solving, leading with wisdom, and beyond doubt. So check those out. I also have an AI bot now where you can converse with me at any time from anywhere in the world, 24/7 through my bot, which is downloaded with 30 plus years of my work, my body of work, the 20 books I've written and the courses I've taught, the interviews I've done, the speeches, all of that loaded into the bot. We have several bots and it's growing now, so you can actually interact with the Fuel team on a variety of amazing topics through the bots. They're amazing. I've even had conversations with myself, and I think my bot's smarter than I am half the time. So check it out. So Jon Giganti, the founder of the Giganti Group. Jon's based in Columbus, Ohio. He was a former D1 athlete. He might tell you some stories about that. A sales leader, and his whole mission is to really help people to transcend fear, respond differently to it. He'll reference choice moments. What are these choice moments all about? And he's also a best-selling book. USA Today awarded his book With Intention as a bestseller. So we talk about intention quite a bit in this show. So with that, let me welcome Jon Giganti to the show. Jon, hello.
Hey, John. Great to be here. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all you bring to the world. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. So Jon, give us a quick story about how you landed exactly where you are right now. You know,
Yeah.
you got 25 years experience. I know you're married, 3 kids, so you've been raising a family. You've been coaching, I think your daughter in soccer.
Sure, sure.
You were a great soccer player. So talk to us
Yeah,
just a
thank
little
you.
about your story, and then if you would, um, I call them moments of truth. You
Yeah,
choice moments. So where you had to make a decision
sure.
to not react, I think is how you like to put it, not react to fear, but respond differently,
Yeah,
not let it stop you in your tracks. For
yeah,
our audience, you know, we all get a little bit nervous or anxious sometime. Maybe it's an interview you're going into or a performance review. Maybe it's a sales call you're going into, or you're getting up on stage to give a talk. You just got to speak up in a meeting. I mean, there's all these opportunities to sort of freeze.
yeah,
And we've all been there. But if you really want to grow and expand yourself and be truly successful and happy in your life, because no one wants to live with regret. I wish I would have done that. That's not where you want to be. So, Jon, how'd you get
yeah.
past all this?
Yeah, so let me first start out with this premise or this framework. I learned from a marriage coach that my wife and I go to, Julia Woods, and she says life is all about data and meaning. And for much of my life, we all have data coming in all the time, and we have the choice to attribute meaning to it. And I'll share a little bit of the backstory because I think it'll make sense. I'm not sure I was very good at attributing the right meaning to the data. And so let me take you back. We talked before the show a little bit about I grew up in Cleveland, son of an immigrant. My dad came over from Italy when he was 6, so very blue collar, first person to go to college. My mom as well and her family, they were both teachers. And my dad was a wrestler. He wrestled at Bowling Green, which is where I ended up going to play soccer. Um, but hardworking, worked multiple jobs. There was always this really, really blue collar work ethic, like I said. Well, I got home from school in 5th grade and my dad wasn't home. And he was in the hospital. He had what they deemed a nervous breakdown. He was struggling with some mental health stuff. And, it's one of those things, you're in 5th grade. I didn't really understand it. honestly. I lived a great life. It wasn't like there was a ton of family issues or anything like that. But it was one of these things. He went to visit my dad in the hospital, came home. He came home 2 weeks later, and we kind of swept it under the rug, John. We didn't really talk about it much. And it was just, it's pride, right? Like it's just one of these things, you just sweep it and you move on. So I was fortunate. I was a pretty good athlete growing up and got into soccer really big and ended up, you get in the right environment, coaching and teammates and everything else. And that really became my identity and probably looking back, my safe place to kind of block everything out and just jump into. So I was fortunate to play in some great teams, won a couple of high school state titles and ended up going with some of my high school teammates to Bowling Green and had a pretty good run, a couple of NCAA tournaments in college. But it wasn't all sunshine and roses, and I didn't know it at the time, but all that sweeping stuff under the rug, and I never had any mental health stuff, honestly, going through this. And all of a sudden, I go to school. My parents went through a messy divorce after my freshman year of college. And I went back to school. And for the first time, I kind of felt myself cratering a little bit. I remember I was running. We did this thing. It's called the Cooper test, 2 miles in 12 minutes around the track. Very painful. Back to back 6 minute miles. I know you were an athlete, so you've been through the gauntlet of some of these training things.
I had to
Did,
do exactly the same thing.
did you?
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I would always run it in like 11 minutes. And I went back and I was a midfielder, so I could run all day. But the first time I felt my brain kind of go, "You're not good enough." Those doubts started to creep in, and I ended up, I
Mhm.
would call it bonking out, and I ran this thing in like 14 minutes. It was just like the first time I ever felt myself not being gritty and resilient and getting through it. Looking back now, it's clear as day that I wasn't dealing with some of the baggage from growing up. And not no blame on my parents. They were amazing. It's just, you go through stuff. I remember thinking when they were going through the divorce, like, they're going through it. It's not about me. But I never said anything to teammates, coaches, nothing. I just went back into the grind of the season. And, you've got to be at that level. You've got to be, the mindset is crucial. And
Mhm.
I earned a starting job, had some good games early in that season, and then I just found myself kind of on and off of being at a really high level and then really struggling. And I give you an example, like first touch, if my first touch in the game was really good, man, I'd get some confidence and I'd go. If I had a bad touch, all those doubts would kick in and it would snowball. And so, again, at that level, it's all about the margins. And I found myself kind of up and down the rest of my career on starting position, on the bench, and my identity was in soccer wholeheartedly back then. It's not anymore. I'm a pretty faith-driven guy now, thankfully. But um, so I failed, and that led to a lot of deep, struggle and depression and anxiety and numbing the pain and trying. I moved to Chicago and I got into the business world. So I kind of had success on the sports field and then failures. Got into the business world, had a lot of success early, but I was pretty selfish. Eventually got into sales. Um, I found myself, I closed a couple deals early in my career. I got cocky. I remember my boss came to me about Salesforce and like documenting some sales things, and I'm like, I don't care about that, all that pipeline and sales management stuff. I just want to close business. Like I was just an arrogant 27, 28-year-old. Well, lo and behold, this is how this stuff works. Is a couple years later, I found myself having panic attacks presenting when I go, and that's not never good for a salesperson. Now, here's what's crazy about this. When I was a freshman in high school at St. Ed's in Cleveland, I was the speech champion out of 250 kids in high school my freshman year. Um, Repped that speech so much with my mom at like 5:30 in the morning. So there's an element to the unseen hours and repping, and I got a little cocky there that thought I was just a natural speaker. I'm so good. And so all of a sudden I'm 30 years old and I'm at this crazy inflection point, like, holy cow, I don't know if I can get back from this. I'm struggling to even present. And thankfully, I got introduced to this thing called Toastmasters, which I went to for 2 years straight every Thursday morning, Vineyard Church in Westerville down the street from here. And I just figured it out. And I took every opportunity to speak. Again, I had a bit of a faith journey of just like, it's not about me. There's a bigger calling here. And had three young kids at the time and knew almost lost my marriage during this time because as I was going through this, I probably wasn't the best husband and father. But that's when I first learned about this idea of choices. And we all have an opportunity. I've heard you say this in some of your stuff. Everybody's got greatness inside of them. right? It's our gift back to the world is to live into our potential and then to pay it forward and give it back. And so I just started this journey of, and that's where With Intention came from, of man, if I could make my way back from the speaking struggle, make those right choices at the right times, honestly, do it scared. Because I believe me, I still have scar tissue sometimes. Before I give a lot of talks now, there's an element of fear, right? I channel it into excitement now, and I do a lot of work to rehearse and prep. But then I also trust it and let it fly. And it's funny now,
Mhm.
John, because I share this story a lot of times from the stage, and people were like, "Man, I did not expect that." And let me share my story with you. So when we open ourselves up a bit, it's amazing what that can do for other people. So I know I kind of jumped in a lot. I'll pause there and see if you have any thoughts or questions.
Yeah, well, one thing just triggered my mind because I know you're a certified John Maxwell
Yeah.
coach, and I just saw John speak here in
Mm,
West Palm Beach.
amazing.
I don't know, a couple months ago, and he told an interesting story. He said somebody came up to him one time, young person, and said, "I want to do what you do,"
Yeah, yeah.
and he said, "Well, are you willing to do what I did? To do what I do, you got to be willing to do what I did."
Yes.
Which was decades of what you and I
Amazing.
are talking about,
Right?
struggle. I also saw something really kind of clever the other day, and it said, life, when you're going through life, like a GPS system, you have to auto correct from time to
Yeah.
time. You know how you take the wrong
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
street and it's got to reboot and says, "Now, okay, now
So good.
turn around and go the other." Well,
Yeah.
isn't that life? We get hit with these setbacks and these what you call like choice moments,
Yeah.
and the choices we make, and I comment about this a lot, is that we make tens of thousands of choices a day.
Yeah,
People are
for
like, well,
sure.
how's that even possible? And when you break it down, every word you speak is a
Mm.
choice.
Hmm.
When you say it is a choice. If you say it is a choice. Who you say it to is a choice. How you respond to somebody, especially if they've insulted you or whatever, is a choice.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything, and I like to call it minding the mind. So when we
Mm.
become truly mindful and self-aware, which is one of the most important competencies in emotional intelligence, self-awareness is
Sure.
we start to really pay attention to what am I feeling? And fear is a feeling, doubt,
Yeah,
anxiety is a feeling, and it's telling your body to sweat and your
sure.
heart to pump. Then why am I feeling that? Like you, I'm a business consultant and a coach, and I
Mhm.
go into companies and I teach root cause analysis. So if you're
Mm.
feeling something undesirable or experiencing something undesirable, you're not getting good results.
Yeah.
Why? Let's do the root cause analysis and let's find out why. And with fear, and I like your comments on this, with fear,
Mhm.
it's because we're not present.
Mm.
We can't be afraid if our mind, our conscious mind, is present. We're only afraid when the mind is looking ahead and is thinking something could go wrong.
Yeah,
I
sure.
could say something stupid up on stage. I could trip and fall going
Mhm.
up the stairs. I could freeze. I could forget what to say.
Yeah.
And those images, self-created images, trigger what is fear.
Mhm.
And you mentioned about some mental nervous issues. I've never really shared this. I've certainly not shared it on Fearless, but I was diagnosed with epilepsy a few years ago. I was
Wow.
having 5 or 6 seizures a day, and I have had seizures in front of audiences.
Mm.
And it's freaky, like, and
For
so
sure.
I was initially,
Wow.
before I got it treated, I've been treated now in a number of different techniques to
Yeah.
eliminate it, so to speak. But I used to just get up in front of an audience and say, "Hey, it's possible that I might sort of go out of space here for
Yeah.
10 or
Bingo.
15 seconds. Don't worry, I'm not gonna pass out and have a heart attack. It's
Yeah.
just something I'm dealing with." So I felt like I have to confront it
Sure.
so that they don't freak out when I space out. It was kind of like this
Yeah, yeah,
sort of
yeah.
out of body thing, and it wasn't a epileptic seizure where you're shaking on the ground or anything like that. But
Sure.
these were like 10 to 15-second blips where I
Sure,
just
sure.
anyway, and
Mm.
so I mean that was frightening because if I was projecting it was going to happen,
Yeah.
The more I focus on it, the more likely it is to happen.
Right. Yes.
And what I learned is that by telling them
Mm.
it might happen, then it didn't. It's
Yes.
like I confronted it and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then there
Yeah.
were other times when it did. So there was a period of time for that over a year I couldn't drive.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had to get help. I had multiple MRIs on my brain.
Yeah.
I mean all kinds of
Oh my
tests.
gosh.
But anyway, it's under.
Wow.
I'm not worried about having one now. Let me put it that way. So yeah.
Yeah.
So when you think
Mm.
about fear, the root cause being there's something going
Hmm.
on in my mind that it looks negative, looks like I could hurt myself or
Hmm.
humiliate myself, or something could go wrong with someone I care about. It's a projection.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about that, and how you overcome any negative, if you will, thinking with positive intention.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that, by the way, on the epilepsy. Wow, and I love how you frame that of you put it out there, right? So the audience knows, and then if it happens, they're you just roll with it. There's a couple things come to mind. One, there's a movie called A Fault in Our Stars. I think that's the title of it. It was a book, great movie. It's about two 18-year-old kids, teenagers who are they're dying of cancer. And the one guy puts a cigarette in his mouth, and the girl who's also has cancer is like gets mad at him and rips it out. And she's like, "What are you doing? You have cancer." And he's like, "Look, it's not lit. I don't smoke. I put it in my mouth because I don't want to give it power." And it's a metaphor for, not giving the cancer power. That's essentially what he was saying. And I get chills even saying it because I recommend anybody go look at the clip. You can look it up and see it. I have found by being open about this and talking openly, I take away its power. And so when I go and I share the story to an audience, one, it builds trust and rapport because it's, hey, this guy's not just getting up talking about how great he is. It's no, let me tell you about my failures. And I think it's kind of funny that I'm speaking to audiences about, not being able to speak. And by the way, it's a number two fear in the world behind death, I think, is public speaking. And I work with a lot of people now because they hear my story, like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid to speak. What do you recommend? What's your advice? So I love that, having conversations. And I always say, you're thinking too much about yourself, right? So you think about what you talk about with Brian Biro, ego versus we go. I mean, it is ego. And if I had to get out of my own head, and there were a lot of reps to get there, but I had a speaking coach, Michael Port, amazing, uh, Heroic is his company, but I built a speech with his team a few years back when I was first diving into this world. And it was kind of high level on servant leadership. And I sent him an email and I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know how important speaking is to me. I was a speech champion and then I had these panic attacks and went through these mental health battles and I'm fighting my way back. I just feel like God's called me to speak. And he wrote back, he goes, well, there's your speech. So I threw away my old speech and I decided to then be very open with my experience, which then led to me actually writing the book With Intention, where I'm very open about this path back. So I think it's that element of not giving it the power and then you got to do the work. It doesn't just happen. You got to do the work to live into it. But I'm a Christian, and this will be regardless of faith applicable to anybody. But I read the Bible for the first time ever fully in 2015 when I was going through this kind of reawakening, I would say. And there's a passage in Second Corinthians where Paul asked Jesus to remove a thorn from his side, and he asked him three times. And essentially, Jesus says, "Hey, man, no, your power or my power is made perfect in your weakness. And when you are weak, then you are strong." And that blew my mind, John, because I'm like, oh, I don't have to hide from this any longer. I can show up as I am wholeheartedly and intentionally and authentically, vulnerably, dare I say vulnerable, right? And I talk to
Hmm.
leaders all the time, like, man, vulnerability is a superpower for any leader, in my opinion. And most, especially guys, we never want to let our guard down. But man, the moment you let your guard down a little bit is the moment you build a lot of trust with people. So that's the mission. My last 11 years, I would say. So to go back to I did the John Maxwell thing back I was still in the corporate world, but I've been intrigued with leadership development my whole life. I read a book called The Edge. Howard Ferguson was a wrestling coach at St. Ed's. I was in eighth grade when I read it. It was all motivational quotes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so inspired by it as I was a young athlete. So I kind of knew I was always going to get into this line of work. It just took me a long time to get there and a lot of bumps. And so, um, yeah, the fear, I still have fear. It's never going to fully go away. We all as humans will have fear. It's our reassessment of it, right? It's that data and meaning. And I've really learned to just say, hey, the data, here's the data. It is what it is. And I have the choice to assess the meaning to it. And I'll say this for the audience, and for you, I don't know if have you seen Stutz on Netflix, the documentary? Okay, so
No.
Dr. Phil Stutz, incredible psychologist, wrote a book called Tools and a few other books. Jonah Hill, Jonah Hill, the actor.
Yeah.
So Stutz is Jonah Hill's psychologist. And it's really done Hollywood style. So it's really well done. And it's all about Jonah's work with Dr. Stutz. But what Stutz says is it's called the reversal of desire. And it's very simple. It says, whatever it is that you fear, you must move towards. And as soon as you start moving towards it, the fear actually goes away. Now, does it fully go away? Maybe not, but it should get diminished the more we go. And it's that whole like metaphor of the bison, right? Like the
Yeah.
bison runs into the storm, where most animals see a storm coming and they run away. No. The bison actually runs through the storm because they get through it faster. And I think that's
Yeah.
a great way to think about this.
Yeah, no doubt. A couple of things, just, you're talking about some scripture, just a simple phrase I've used for a very long time, is the meek shall inherit the earth, so
Mm. Mm.
meek aren't weak. That's key, is meek are strong and humble, which is a huge
Yeah.
element to all of it. And you use the term vulnerability. I'll also say this, we've probably all heard this statement in business, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And I say no,
Sure.
no, because your true self knows you're faking it.
Yeah.
They know you're not authentic. They know you don't know that you have genuine power. So
Hmm.
you think power comes externally, not recognizing it's internal. So if you're faking anything, you're not authentic. And
Hmm.
a significant factor that I've found in facing fear is that you're honest and authentic, and you don't lock the front door, so to speak. There's a Zen teaching, you let it in the front door and out the back door, but you don't invite it for tea. So the way I handle that is when I feel anxiety coming up or fear or doubt, anything like that, I'll actually have a conversation with it. And I know
Hmm.
I'm talking to the ego because that's where it's coming from. And I know I'm not the ego. So when I say things like, who's minding your mind? If somebody says I changed my mind, who's the I actually saying that? We get confused about who's in charge. And if the mind is running our lives,
Hmm.
which is the ego telling you this is scary, or this is joy, or this is love, it doesn't get it. The ego's idea of love is you fall in and out of it. It's temporary. Their idea of forgiveness for the ego is, well, you screwed up, but I forgive you. But I'll never forget. You know, that's not forgiveness, that's condemnation,
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
judgment. And so when you transcend that mindset and you're like, you know what? I'm in charge of my mind. My mind is not in charge of me. And so when I feel fear coming, and you've used this in your catchphrase, instead of reacting,
Hmm.
you use it to respond,
Hmm.
right? I love that because it surfaces. The ego is always surfacing, trying to tell you you don't have enough, you're not good enough, you need to go back to school, you're too old, you're too young, you can't do this. The ego is never satisfied, no matter what you've accomplished. And so once you start to realize that, you know what, ego, I hear you. Take a back seat. Okay, I got a job to do here. Okay,
Yeah.
just thanks for informing me that there are some risks I should be aware of, because that's valuable, right?
Yeah,
I
for
want to
sure.
just do anything stupid. But when you take ownership for who you truly are, and you talk about, your higher self, your higher power,
Hmm.
and you face that fear, you have a conversation. You don't lock the front door. I say this a lot because if you to try to pretend you're not afraid,
Sure.
you lock it out. Anything you're resisting, you're making stronger.
Yeah.
So you can't fake truth with a capital T. You can't fake truth. So when you recognize who you truly are, and you're not this
Mhm.
ego mind that's telling you you're just not good enough. Wow. I mean, you got awesome
Yeah.
power. That doesn't mean
Hmm.
you aren't going to get up on stage potentially and say something stupid or make mistakes. We all do, but then we self-correct.
Sure. Sure.
And so
Sure.
talk to me about your ABZ
Yeah.
conversation, but I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So the backstory is I'm on a walk with a guy by the name of James Clear 3 years ago. James Clear wrote Atomic Habits. He lives here in Columbus, so he's a friend and was fortunate. I was thinking about leaving my 25-year corporate sales career at this point to go do this work full time. And James, Atomic Habits, 25 million copies sold. He's a guy that's built this already, and so him and I did a walking meeting, and he's asking me what my vision is and what I'm thinking about, and I'm like, well, here's this, and this, and I want to do this, and I want to. He's like, John, you're thinking A to Z, and you got to think A, B, Z. Start at A, B is just the first step, and what happens is once you get to B, then C opens up to you, and then you get to C,
Yeah.
and then D. And it's just, of course, it's so simple, but as humans, we make things too complex sometimes. So it blew my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so good. I've never heard someone articulate it like that. And so it's just it's again, as humans, we try to get to the finish line so much. And I don't say don't have a vision and don't have a goal in mind, but man, it's like for me, I left a 25-year corporate gig 15 months ago, and it's been a lot of A, B, and maybe even go back to, in between A and B, and then I get to C,
Yeah.
and I have a vision, right? But it's so I love the concept because we want to boil the ocean when sometimes we just gotta take the first step into the water and then see what happens. And yeah,
Yeah, John, like I said, that resonates with me so much because I started my consulting firm in 1988. So it
wow,
turns 38 years old this year. And
amazing,
I'm not
congratulations.
even I'm not even sure I had A figured out, quite
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah, I get it, man.
But I had a Z. I had a
Yeah,
vision, and
sure.
in fact, kind of like the John Maxwell story. I went to see a guy named Tom Peters speak, and he was a
Okay,
big deal back in the day in search of excellence
I
and
remember
pursuit of,
Tom. Yeah,
Anyway, and I saw him with like 1,000 people. I'm sitting there and I'm watching him, and I'm like, that I want to do that. It just
yeah,
somehow resonated
so
with me.
cool. Me too. Yeah,
But like John Maxwell said, if you want to do what I do, you got to be willing to do what I did, which
yeah,
means bump
so good.
scrapes and screw ups. So I had
Yep.
my Z and I had my A, and then but the whole point, if I would have tried to figure it all out
Yeah,
before I even took the first step, I would never gotten anywhere.
yeah,
And what I found interesting is I found that if you know what you want with such clarity, and it's not about
sure.
what you ego want, it's what you have to give. So for me,
Yeah.
it's giving 100 million people as
Hmm.
much help as I can. I'm not worrying about the
Amazing.
get, but give. That's a mission and a vision I'm on. And if the why is important, so the what and the why, this is
Yeah,
what I want, and this is why it's important to the world, not just to me. The
yeah,
how shows up.
for
That
sure.
if you get the A and B going, and then all of a sudden, we meet, or
Yeah.
somebody says, you ought to write a book, which is what they told me, and I was like, well, I don't know how to write a book, so I read a book about how to write a book. This was way
Yeah,
before the internet, even.
sure.
And then somebody, said you should write an allegory, and I'm like, I didn't know what an allegory was, and
Yeah,
they just ideas, and
amazing.
then all of a sudden, I'm contacted by Fuel, hey, would you
Yeah,
like to
yeah,
be a faculty member? These things, I didn't plan any of this, John. I mean, I'm sure
yeah,
you discover the same thing.
exactly.
You stay clear to your mission
Yeah,
and allow success. Don't force it.
there you
Don't
go.
push at it. Don't allow it because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's there. And
Sure.
if we can just trust a higher power, if you will,
Yeah,
enough, you can't have fear and faith at the same time,
so true. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So closing comments, John.
Yeah. I would say I'll add on to the how and what and why. And I would say I also believe you start with who. And I've heard you talk about I am statements. I'm big on I am, and there's a whole, faith-based thing around that too. But
Yeah, right.
for me, that's the choice moment. So the model is stimulus happens, we tell ourselves a story, we have a choice and a decision to make. That's right in the middle. That's the Viktor Frankl man's search for meaning. We all have a
Yep.
choice.
Yeah.
And then we respond and we get a result. So if you win the choice moment, it's really about starting with who you are, right? And so that's the identity and belief work people have to do. And that way, when that stimulus happens and the story you're telling yourself, here we go again, I'm going to fail. No, 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 no. It's I'm someone who believes I can succeed, or whatever that is for the individual. That's the choice moment. And we make thousands of these choices every single day, but it's that
Yeah.
gap. And the more you do it, the more you can close the gap. So I would just add on to, that piece, start with who you're becoming. Not just maybe it's not who you are today too. It's that who that vision is for you.
Yeah, well, the story you tell yourself following the I am what? Fill
Yeah.
in the blank. And I challenge people to come up with at least 20, not two or three,
Yes, I've heard you
and
say
then
that. I love
find
that.
and then find proof. So
Hmm.
yeah, yesterday I'm generous. Prove it. Well,
Yeah, yeah,
yesterday I gave somebody a smile. It could be something as simple as that, or a touch, like you talk about Steve Nash and 239
yeah,
touches
yeah.
in a game or
Sure,
whatever. That's
sure.
incredible. So that's key. The who is absolutely key, and we get very confused between the ego, small s self, and our higher spiritual self, and
For
that's
sure.
game changing right there. Um, I'll leave everybody with this quote from Henry Ford way back in the day because it really resonated with me. And Henry Ford said, "Whether you think you can or you
Mm.
think you can't, you're right." Think about that. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Because what we believe in our minds is essential to going forward. And so if the mind is saying, don't get on the road until you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G all figured out. Well, you might not just never take that leap of faith, so to speak. So,
Yeah.
John, we've got your link in the chat for everybody, and check out Fuel, everybody, please. Just look at the courses, look at the incredible instructors, look at the AI bots that are available on quite a few of us now. Go to Mindset Matters on Mondays. I host that with Ali Sweeney and Danielle Ribeiro. Danielle's coming up this next Monday, the 9th. I'm back on the 23rd. Every Friday, we got some great guests lined up. Next week, Jim Cathcart's coming back, Hall of Fame speaker, amazing guy, great courses on fuel. Go to YouTube, and all these courses are recorded. And please share them with family and friends and coworkers and teammates, things like that. And with that, John, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. My
We'll get
pleasure.
you
Thanks,
back on
John.
one of these days. Oh, and look at John's blog too. He's got some fantastic writing, and
Thank you,
little
John.
stories that are very compelling. I love reading what you've got, John. So with
Thank
that,
you.
everybody, happy Friday. Have a great weekend, and message us through Fuel or social media. You can go to my YouTube channel. I've got a couple hundred videos out there for free, and we will see you next Friday.